This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, Katerina.
Hi, can you hear me well? For some reason I can't hear you now.
Sorry, I muted myself. It's a good start.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. All right, I'll let me attend to this crying baby in the background.
We're not starting for another 15 minutes anyway.
Yeah, and I'll be with you in a bit. See you.
Hello.
Hello, Nicola.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful.
Any changes to the participants?
I don't know if you saw my message that Stephanie will present UCLAN, which is a member, and iClaim, which is a partner.
Okay, yeah.
And Stelios Yatros confirmed over the weekend that he will present TEPAC.
Okay. We don't have TEPAC on the list yet, huh? So TEPAC will also.
Yeah, TEPAC. Stelios Yatros, he's a member of the Leadership Council, but he's also going to present TEPAC.
Stelios Yatros.
Yeah, Ostilianos Yatros. He's here. He's just arrived, actually.
Okay. Can you pronounce the surname of Stephanie? Is it Lole?
Lole Shailu. Yeah.
Lole. Okay.
Yeah.
That's how I thought it was.
I think, although it's French, I'm not. I should know. Know better.
It should be Lole. Yes, so that's what I thought. But as being a Frenchman, I thought that you would know better.
We'll give people another 5 or more minutes, 10 minutes, let's say, to
So
join.
From the partners, only one partner is participating.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for this time round, yes, yeah. I sent a reminder, several reminders, but yeah.
It would have been a good opportunity, really, to brainstorm and see what we can do. But I don't know. Is it because of COVID? Is it because of other meetings? Is it the time? Maybe we should have chosen a later time.
Maybe, but it was really a good opportunity to connect it to the conference.
Yeah. Are you participating in the conference? Are you?
Oh yes,
attending?
yes. I'm giving a presentation. I'm handling another workshop immediately after this at 3:30, so I will have to leave at 3:30 sharp. And I'm presenting one of the task force reports tomorrow, and I'm presenting again a task force report at the conference itself.
Okay. Good. We have only, these are the only people attending now.
I'm sorry?
These are the only people attending, 5, 4.
For the moment, yes.
Yeah.
Kostas Kounamas will present Frederick University. I think it's on the list anyway.
Yes, yes. And Theodore, Dorothea Struber, is she?
Yes, she will join us. She will join us, and she will present SDSN Global.
Should I probably ask her to, I mean, if she's staying until the end or just the presentation?
I think she will stay for the whole thing.
Because I was thinking maybe if any of the members or partners want to ask a question, that would be
I think she will stay. I think she will stay.
Okay.
Ksenia just sent a message. She'll be a little bit late, but she is joining us.
Ah, is she speaking also?
No, because
Okay.
Acti is not actually a partner yet. Dorothea is here now.
Yes.
And we have Katerina from Uklan. Hi, Dorothea.
Yes, hello.
Hi, Dorothea. Very, very good to have you with us today.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to join as well. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Are you going to stay until the end of the meeting?
I don't know if I'm going to have time, but I'll stay for as long as I can.
Okay, because I
then
was
I'll let
thinking
you know. Yeah.
after your presentation, maybe I will ask the members and partners if they have any questions to address you. Yeah, and then of course you can stay until the end, or if you have any other commitment, you can leave before the end of the meeting.
Absolutely. No, I will definitely stay for the questions so that everybody has a chance to ask if there's interest. Yeah.
One quick update. If we can put Frederick University as the last presenter, if possible.
Okay. I'm not following any alphabetical order or anything else, but I will put.
Actually, I had them in the order in which people confirmed, to be honest.
Okay. Okay, so I'll leave Kostas Kournamas last then.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Let me send a quick reminder to everyone.
Okay. Shall we give them another 5 minutes, Nicola?
Yes, I think to be fair, let's give people at least 2 or 3 minutes more, and
Because
then we
it's
can.
important to hear what Dorothea will say.
Yes.
And since she's the second speaker after my brief talk.
Welcome, Leonidas.
Nice to see you, Nick.
Hello,
Hello to
Leonidas.
everybody. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
People are joining.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Maybe you should open your camera so that we can see everybody.
Even if we are having lunch, Erato?
Okay. All right. You don't have to. As
We
long
can
as
really open and greet people.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be with you.
Hello, Katerina. Hello, Josefina. Hello, Stelios, Orestes.
Hi,
Okay.
everyone.
Hello, everyone.
If you feel uncomfortable, you can close your camera.
Good to see everyone. Or maybe for network and connectivity issues, sometimes it gets easier with the camera off.
Now the microphone should be off. That would be a rule, I think, so that we don't disturb those who are speaking. Who else is joining us, Nicola? Who is missing?
Let me see. We have Frederick. We have European University of Cyprus. We have Josefina. Give me 1 sec. Let me just double check.
The University of Cyprus, who is participating?
No, University of Cyprus. Nobody. They're not members yet.
Okay. Oh yes, yes.
They've got permission to apply for membership. Let me see.
European University, who is participating?
Yes, we have Orestes here.
Orestes.
Yes, hello everyone.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
So actually,
The University of Nicosia, Lisa is there. Okay.
Yes,
yeah,
hello.
Lisa. Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi,
Good to see
Katerina.
you.
How are you too?
I'm
You too
good.
here.
So I think everybody is there.
Yeah, I think the Open University was going to attend, but it wasn't 100% sure. So we can proceed, I think.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for responding positively to this invitation. This is, in fact, our first workshop. And the purpose of this workshop is really to get to know each other. We know that we have already 9 members and we have 7 partners, but we did not have the opportunity so far to get together, to know each other, and find out how each one of us can help in our common goal, which is none else than the promotion of the SDGs in Cyprus and, of course, globally, to promote and, of course, to implement. Unfortunately, since the launch of SDSN Cyprus, we had some very difficult times that you all know, with COVID-19, with the deadlocks, the restrictions that we had for having any major events. So in fact, we were not able to have this kind of get together. So I consider this a very important opportunity for us to brainstorm and to see how this SDSN community in Cyprus can show itself, can promote itself, can promote the implementation by the government and by all the other authorities, the very important 17 SDGs. Unfortunately, Cyprus is not ranking well in our European continent. We are at the bottom, not at the very bottom, third from the bottom, and this will be explained by Nicholas later on. We are working with the authorities, but we do need the help of every one of you. We need to have a better exposure. We need to network, and of course, we need also the guidance from the SDSN Global. And this is why we have with us a very important person who is our connection with the SDSN Global. She's the manager of SDSN Network Program, Dorothea Struber. She's with us and she will give us an overview of the SDSN Global. I think this is very important so that we put our country in the wider context, in the wider efforts, to see where we are, to see our weaknesses, and to see how we can move in Cyprus, but also how we can contribute in the global effort in a more productive and result-oriented way. So without further ado, I give the floor to Dorothea to give us this presentation. Dorothea, you have about 10 minutes. And after your presentation, I will ask members and partners if they have any questions. I think this is a very important opportunity to get to clarify a number of things. I give you the floor, Dorothea.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Erato, for this introduction, and everyone for joining today. I'm extremely excited to join this very first meeting of our membership within Cyprus, and I'm just glad that everybody, or mostly everyone, is here to find common ground, how we can work together. I do have a presentation that I would like to share with everyone. So I'll start sharing my screen. And I hope, let me just get that into. Brilliant. Yeah, so I was given 10 minutes, and of course, there is lots and lots to say. So please, I just want to give that as a heads up to everyone. If you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to either ask me right after my presentation or send me an email to the email indicated here on my first slide. I will be happy to explore with you how we can individually explore your involvement in SDSN Global. And so, of course, together with Kostas and Nicolas, we'll be gladly exploring the opportunities for action. So I'm joining today from the SDSN Secretariat. That is a global network of sustainable development problem solvers. And so we have this mandate ever since 2012, so for nearly a decade now, directly by the UN Secretary General under the leadership of Professor Jeffrey Sachs, to mobilize the global scientific and technological expertise to promote practical problem solving for sustainable development. And so, I mean, of course, you know more or less what we do within the SDSN. So I come to you today to just give you a bit of a glimpse into what the multiple opportunities for involvement are. So through our network, we bring together all sorts of different organizations. That could be universities, research centers, and other knowledge institutions that focus on those four main questions relating to sustainable development. So the first of which is how to make the SDGs more relevant to politics and civil society. And I think our SDSN Cyprus has done a great job in exploring precisely that nexus, which I think we'll hear more about later directly from Nicola and from Kostas. The second question is how to implement them. So promoting long-term pathways, as we call them, for sustainable development in different thematic areas. The third of our main objectives is how to teach the SDGs through our flagship initiative, the SDG Academy, through which we promote high-quality education and research collaboration for sustainable development. And then lastly is outreach and mobilization around the SDGs with very practical examples. So this is just an overview of the networks team within SDSN. So I myself am based in Spain, in Barcelona, but this is the rest of my colleagues that I work with on a daily basis, just in the networks team. So of course, the SDSN Secretariat has many more branches of work, but this is just a snapshot of kind of my colleagues within the networks team that helps steer our program with our ever-growing number of networks. So perhaps you don't know that, but each of us at the SDSN Secretariat is the focal point for several networks. And in my capacity as manager within our program, I also oversee SDSN Cyprus, but also our colleagues in Greece, in the Black Sea region, in Mexico and Brazil, in Germany, and I think I'm forgetting a couple, Turkey also. I know best what other colleagues in those networks of mine, quote unquote, are doing and can always help connect the dots. But of course, all of these team members of mine are available to answer any questions regarding their specific projects. So again, if you ever encounter a potential link for action or involvement of your organization with any of those work streams, please feel free to reach out to me or my colleagues directly. So this is also just a visual to help you understand what type of network you are a member of. So we are spanning 6 continents and to date have more than 1,500 member institutions, covering a vast range of countries, of course, and regions. And this is the network's map that perhaps helps visualize a little bit better where we are established with national and regional networks, of which we have 41 at the time being, but we also, of course, have still some gaps that we are trying to close with other institutions that are hoping to set up networks in their regions or countries. Yeah, talking about your involvement and potential for growing your contribution within this global network of problem solvers. So we are always working on a bunch of global and regional initiatives that we open up to our SDSN members, and this is just really a snapshot of the latest ones of them. So we're currently planning regional meetings for university presidents in Asia Pacific, Europe, Africa, and Americas, to which we will, when the time comes, also inform you correspondingly and help, and ask for your help in getting more university presidents signed onto those gatherings. We're also working on a European Sustainable Development Report that specifically looks at Europe and its performance regarding the SDGs. So Erato was mentioning Cyprus ranking in our global ranking global index, and we are looking a little bit more in detail on the European continent as well. So that is currently in the works. We're also just about to launch our 2nd issue of SDG Action that features authors from around the globe for this specific issue based on climate. So this will be launched just in time for COP. In January 2022, we will host the 3rd edition of our Global Solutions Forum that features innovative and transformative solutions sourced from within our network. Another one is the Education for the SDGs guide, which I'm sure you've heard about. It is kind of the flagship report for universities and how they can get started with the SDGs, just on a very practical level, but then also how they can accelerate education for the SDGs. So we have lots of translations available. The last one in French is just on the way. And this is, from what I've been hearing and the feedback that I've been getting, one of the main or go-to resources. And actually, it's the most downloaded resource on our unsdsn.org website. Then we have another initiative called SDSN Europe, which is a regional network spanning the European Union that contributes to the Sustainable Development Report for Europe, but also has other reports, events, and partnerships that you are welcome to join if there is an interest. The SDSN Secretariat is also host of the Lancet Commission for COVID-19. And we are also just in the works of establishing a Siemens Gamesa Award for Climate Solutions. Again, also working with the most prestigious of our universities in the network, having students work on practical solutions for the climate. I have 1 minute left, so I probably won't go into detail into these initiatives that I brought for today, but I will make my presentation available so everyone can have a look in their own time after. So this is just another look at the guide that I was mentioning, getting started with the SDGs in universities and then accelerating education, but then also the Networks in Action report, where you will find a snapshot of all the work that our 41 national and regional networks have been up to, in addition to 5 of our thematic networks. So we will launch the latest, the 2021 edition very shortly. One thing I do want to highlight and emphasize as kind of the first and easiest step for you to get involved in our network is our member community called SDSN Mobilize. We have more than 4,000 individual members on this. You can think about it as a kind of an SDSN Facebook or SDSN intranet, where you can find new prospects for collaboration and funding opportunities. We have a weekly list of funding opportunities that we share with our members, exclusively with our members, I should add, where you can also connect and identify leaders in your field, increase outreach for your project. So all of our SDSN members are very much encouraged to share their upcoming research or events, posts, whatever it may be that you're currently working on in the sphere of sustainable development. This is the place to share it with your colleagues, reach out to others, make meaningful connections, but also position yourself and your organization as a leader in your field, find collaborators, and ask questions and draw upon the community's expertise. So I will, after my presentation, follow up with the link to that community if you're not part of it just yet. So I will leave it here. This is just a very short overview of only a couple of the things that we're working on in the Global Secretariat. But whenever there is an opportunity or you see an opportunity for you to get engaged, if that's reading our SDSN Global newsletter, finding something interesting, both Nicola, Kostas, and myself, we can always make ourselves available to discuss and explore the options with you. Thank you so much. I will leave it here and back to Nicola.
Thank you very much, Dorothea. Definitely, please share this link with us before leaving. I would like to ask a question and then allow members or partners, if they have any question, to raise it also. From your experience as manager of the SDSN Networks program, who would you say are the front runners or the role models or the achievers in this SDSN network community? And what are the ingredients for success? What should we know? What should we center our efforts at? Can you share with us some of these very important ingredients?
Of course. So I have to say, and maybe that's not very helpful as feedback, but I feel that SDSN Cyprus in the short months ever since it's been launched, for me, it's been an absolute role model in terms of how it has done the work with so close with policymakers, contributing to the VNR of the country, getting a specific SDG unit set up in government. All of these things are precisely the type of work that we want our networks to do. So it is really about the link between science and policymaking. So if I explain my job to friends and family who even after years of me working at the SDSN ask me what it is that I actually do, that is for me the most important part, to get our networks contribute their outstanding science to policymakers so that policymakers in each individual moment can take decisions based on the latest available science. What SDSN Cyprus, I feel, and I think that's what we're here for at the end today, can definitely improve on, but that's just normal after a couple of, not even 2 years after being launched, is the communication with members and the involvement of members. So a decentralized leadership model is something that we have observed works very well in other networks, where members really feel a sense of belonging to something that is bigger than their organization. So first of all, the national network, that there is a close link with both the chairs and the managers of the national network that they belong to, but then also understanding what the initiatives are at SDSN Global and how they can get involved. That's why I'm emphasizing that we kind of have this shared leadership with Nicola and Kostas, but also with myself. So you should think of the three of us as kind of your focal points for outreach whenever you have a question or an idea to get involved with either national initiatives. If that's something completely new, we also want you to challenge us. If there's something that we're not doing yet, let us know that that there is an option for us to get involved. Be that both at the national but also at the global level, and then really also try to make those connections on your own behalf. So if there's something that we don't know about that you are doing in your institution, feel free to give us an update whenever you see fit, so that we can also perhaps connect the dots whenever there is an opportunity to do so. So I myself might know about some stuff that our colleagues in SDSN Germany are doing that would work and could be very well connected with any of the projects that you are doing in your organizations right now, but we may just don't know because there is a lack of communication. So I would encourage all of us to establish an open line of communication moving forward.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the members or the partners who would like to ask a question? Or we can move to the second speaker. Anyone? Of course, Dorothea will be with us in most of the part of this workshop. So I give the floor now to Nicolas Jarot, who is manager of SDSN Cyprus network, and he will give us an overview of the SDG performance of Cyprus. And this is a 10-minute presentation as well.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes,
good.
Yes.
I'm so glad that we're finally doing this and that we have some of our new partners and members here. When we decided to set up SDSN Cyprus in 2019, essentially there were only 3 universities in Cyprus that were actually at that point members of the global SDSN network. This was Stepak, the Neapolis in Paphos, and the Cyprus Institute. And so one of the things that actually drove us to create such a network was the pretty disastrous state of the implementation of the SDGs in Cyprus. We have to be honest about this. And that's why I'm going to make this presentation now to give you a little bit of context. I'm going to share my screen. Give me 1 minute. All right, let's see if I can share this. Right, can you see a presentation there?
Can you make it shrink it a little bit because it doesn't.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Let me try a different method. Let me try something else. I'll just share my screen itself. All right, this should, does that work better? That should be okay, right?
That's perfect, yeah.
Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about SDG implementation in Cyprus. My 2 main sources, actually my main source is the Sdg Europe report, which Dorothea mentioned, but also a little bit from the Global Report and also the Voluntary National Review that Cyprus produced this year for the first time in 4 years. So let's have a quick look at what's going on. First, let me tell you a little bit about SDSN Cyprus. We created it in 2019, but actually it was officially launched publicly, let's say, on the 12th of June of last year, in the middle of COVID crisis, online, with the presence of Jeffrey Sachs, who had actually encouraged us to create this network in the first place. SDSN Cyprus is actually hosted by the Cyprus Research and Education Foundation, which is the umbrella foundation under which the Cyprus Institute operates. And the Cyprus Institute is the physical space where SDSN Cyprus exists. And for managing SDSN Cyprus, we work very closely with Kostas Kounamas at Frederick University. He and I are the let's say, network managers of this network. So we do have, aside from the original 3, Frederick University joined early on, but now we also have UCLAN, Future World, University of Nicosia. They're all members. Members are really just generally higher education institutions, and partners are everybody else who wants to work with us. So OEV is a member, the NGO Support Center, Terra Cypria, the Maritime Research Institute, and the European Office of Cyprus. And so we promote the implementation of Agenda 2030 in Cyprus. So what is the situation with the SDGs in Cyprus? Well, there was a report that came out, the European report, which came out in 2020, and the results are maybe generally at the European level. We could say that Europe is generally on track, but some gaps remain between countries in Europe. This very heterogeneous approach. The Scandinavian countries and Finland hold the top 3 places, whereas Cyprus, Romania, and Bulgaria are stubbornly at the bottom of the list, and it's not the first time. This is a trend that is occurring. So these are the goals. I mean, you know them probably better than I do. And here's the league table. So this is from the European report. So again, we're not doing amazingly well. We are far below the European average. So this is the Cyprus overview. This is literally a snapshot. So we're 29th out of 31. You can see that if something's in the red, it really means we're in a certain amount of trouble. I mean, we really have to fix it. If it's in the orange, there are still significant challenges. If it's yellow, okay, we're getting there, but challenges remain. And if it's green, we're essentially done. As you can see, there is no green. There is a lot of red and a bit of orange and yellow. So there is a lot more that we could be doing across the board, but it's important to break this down into specific indicators and specific goals, because each goal, of course, is made up of a range of indicators. So essentially, what lessons can we learn here? We essentially are not doing that well. We have to be honest about this, and we have to start taking this seriously, because 2030 is literally just round the corner. We've finished with 2021, hopefully very soon, and then we're going to have 8 years left to somehow make some progress. Now, of course, there's another issue, which is what we call negative spillover effect, so that problems in one country will affect the ability of other countries to implement the SDGs. In that respect, we're somewhere in the middle, but I'll get back to that issue a little bit later. So let's look at some of the specific indicators. Let's start with SDG 1, poverty. You know, we're lucky in Cyprus. We can say that in some ways, if we just take a snapshot at first glance, Cyprus, it seems that, you know, poverty is not the big issue that you see in some of the big European cities and countries, and yet we are on the yellow zone. And this is because this score takes into account everybody who lives on the island and not just the Cypriots. And so we have to pay, I think, a lot of attention to that in the future. Again, hunger, we wouldn't think that hunger is a major issue in Cyprus. However, you have to think that hunger is just a heading, it's a headline. Within that SDG, there are a range of indicators, and the one that's actually causing us trouble is not actually hunger itself, but rather it's how we produce the food that we eat. And we have one of the worst, one of the highest levels of nitrogen, essentially fertilizer use in agriculture, almost double the threshold that it takes to get a red marking. And essentially this can cause all sorts of problems on land and in water, eutrophication, for example. And so the way we do agriculture is not sustainable at this stage. Health, I think the appearance, and this has been mentioned, of the General Health Service of ESE, which was after this data was collected, we'll see that we will have a rise in the next report in SDG 3. I don't know if we'll make it to green, but we'll definitely have a rise. But in the meantime, so one of the problems was the fact that the amount of people who were covered by health insurance. Of course, this will go away now with ESE, because essentially everybody's covered in one way or another. So let's see how that maybe improves in the next report. Education, again, we have good overall quality education, but we are not doing that well in science, and this is extremely worrying, especially in light of the COVID crisis and all the pseudoscience and conspiracy theories that have emerged. We really need to create a generation of people who are well versed in STEM subjects, and again, so there's work to be done there. Gender, there's a problem here. It's not only that we're not doing well, it seems that possibly we're also going backwards. If you look at the last elections, as opposed to the 2016 elections, the number of women represented in parliament dropped to 14% from 17% in 2016, which was already pretty bad. The threshold for having a green light for women in senior management positions more generally is 40%, and we have scored 9%. Let's see if that situation will improve by the next report. SDG 6, water and sanitation. Okay, we're in the orange and the red, and so is Greece. But here again, maybe, you know, it's not necessarily about blaming our policies. We have to accept that we are one of the southernmost nations in the EU, and we are suffering disproportionately from climate change. And so there's something there where we need to obviously adapt, but it's also due to external factors. In terms of energy, we're improving moderately, but energy efficiency in the built environment, renewable energies, it's not just that we're not scoring well for the SDGs, we're actually at risk of getting fined by the European Union for not meeting our renewable energy targets. Hopefully the European Green Deal and the funding that comes with it will have some impact, but this is something that we all need to work on, especially in a country with so much sunlight. The solutions are pretty obvious. SDG 8, in terms of the working environment and economic growth, eventually I think we will achieve this goal, but we have a problem with the younger people who are neither employed nor in education, which was pretty bad. As a consequence, probably as a long-term consequence of the 2013 financial crash. When I first came to Cyprus in the early 2000s, we had almost full employment. So the problem is we've had two financial crises. We've had the 2013 crisis, and then not reflected in this report, we've had the post-COVID financial crisis. Hopefully the COVID resilience and recovery plan will help create jobs, but also importantly, green jobs, so that this can be a green recovery. SDG 9, industry, we're in the red here. We are improving though a little bit, but we have a problem. The main problem is that we're not investing enough in research and development. There's a very low percentage of the GDP, 0.5%, which is invested in research and development. When we need much more investment on this side, both from the public sector and the private sector. And also, maybe perhaps surprisingly, and maybe it's more due to people of my generation than the younger generation, our digital literacy is actually below the EU average. So let's see how that happens. On the positive side, though, our scientists are super productive. They're raising a huge amount of research grants from the European Union per capita, much more than their European counterparts. And also they are very productive when they do get funding and support, but we need to support them. SDG 10 is worrying in itself. There is not enough data available to actually even come to a score. That's another story. It's a question of reporting, and it's something I will come back to, because one of the problems we have with SDGs is the way we report on the SDGs to international organizations, which are then used as data sources for these type of reports. SDG 11, in terms of sustainable communities and cities, here we're not really improving. Part of it is due to our poor recycling rate, but also to the poor energy insulation of many of our homes, which means we have to use a lot of air conditioning, for example, in summer. So this is something that we really need to radically change. SDG 12, consumption and production. Again, we're in the red, but the data is quite old. And again, I think there's an issue of reporting here, which again is something very important, because sometimes it may be that we're actually doing okay, but we're not reporting on that. Climate, which is really the big existential crisis of the day. Nobody's actually really improving in Europe recently, but our greenhouse gas emissions are still way too high. We're having a whole conference about this, the Cyprus Institute, this week. Actually, this workshop is part of this conference, which you can also follow online. So let's hope that we can, we know what needs to be done. Let's hope we can take those actions as quickly as possible. Now, in terms of biodiversity, whether it's life below water or life on land, here again, we're in the red. We do have some success stories. Again, remember, each SDG is made up of many indicators. So we have, for example, the cleanest beaches in Europe. Great. So that is a success, and we need to maintain that. But we need to work on other issues. I think the problem here is that some of these problems also coming from outside of Cyprus. So, for example, the percentage of protected areas, whether they're marine or on land, is affected by the fact that, you know, part of the island is not under the control of the Republic of Cyprus. So obviously we're not going to score so well. But again, we need to make that clear when we're reporting. And in fact, we did have a disclaimer inserted into the European report to explain this type of problem. Peace, justice, and institutions, strong institutions, SDG 16. Here we're doing well, actually, and I think very soon we'll be in the green. And finally, SDG 17, which is the partnership, is how we cooperate with other countries to achieve the goals, which is it's a global objective. Actually, only 4 countries in Europe have actually gone green on this, but we, I think, got downgraded here because we have very low percentage of our GDP dedicated to overseas development assistance, and I think that's something that, again, we really need to work on, science diplomacy and things like that. So that's the quick overview. Now let me give you some caveats about this data. I already mentioned one of them. So a lot of this data is not up to date. It's data from 2010 to 2016. Now part of this is not our fault. It's the way that data is sourced, but a lot of this is the way that these reports are compiled is that they don't go to the government or to us or to SDSN and ask for data. They find the data from existing sources, whether it's Eurostat, whether it's United Nations Environment Programme. So if we don't do our reporting correctly to those organizations, it won't be reflected in the report. So when we do well, we should make sure that we report on that. And this is a dialogue we've been having with the government for the last few months, and they've actually started taking it very seriously, and that's why they actually produced the voluntary national review this year. So the issue of getting the wrong data or not getting data at all is important, but then there's also real factors, but also there's external factors. So for example, look at pollution. I mean, at the Cyprus Institute, we've actually modeled this. For example, air pollution comes to Cyprus from outside in many cases. So for example, when we get dust storms, this is dust from the Sahara, so it relates to land use issues more than maybe 1,000 kilometers away. So again, it can't entirely be blamed on us, but at least if we can measure this and analyze it and show the apportionment of sources, then we will be able to better get more reliable scores for Cyprus. Then there's the other issue which I mentioned, which has to do anything to do with the percentage of the total area of Cyprus is obviously going to be skewed by the fact that we don't have in control over the entire island. Nevertheless, progress is being made. The Statistical Service is actually developed a whole set of SDG indicators, exactly what needed to be done. And although 2 years ago you wouldn't have been able to tell who was the focal point within the government for the SDGs, now it's clear. What you call EPSA in Greek, or DG EPCD, the old planning bureau, is now clearly responsible for coordination across ministries for the SDGs. They played a leading role in the development of the voluntary national review. So we are seeing a massive change, and some of it is due to dialogue with SDSN. So we're really happy with that. This is really the most important first step. There are sectoral plans now. The COVID recovery plan, which was submitted and approved by the European Commission, actually had a table which was developed by someone from SDSN Cyprus, which actually cross-references all the different financial measures with individual SDGs. The government has brought in support from the UN, from UNITAR, to help them with the implementation of the SDGs. So there is a really strong willingness now to really work on this at all different levels. The pandemic has obviously slowed us down like everyone else, but it should also not be used as an excuse. We have work to do and we need to do it. But it was a setback for the implementation of the SDGs, and this could have consequences even 2-3 years down the line. Actually on the health side, this is an area where our response to COVID was generally praised, at least the initial response, and generally our approach now with the YESI in place is something where is going to ensure that I think we will reach green for SDG 3. So, okay, that's the context on the European side. Generally, there's been a mild improvement in Europe. Our region of Europe started with lower scores, but is catching up a little bit, but it's not clear that Cyprus is doing the same, so that's where we need to do a lot of work. Forgive my slide here. I prepared this for another event. The Sdg Global Report was not launched yesterday. It was launched a few months ago, but the point is that we rank 40th globally, but we rank 24 out of 27 in the EU. So again, it confirms the trend in the EU report that we're pretty much at the bottom of the list. But it is a slightly more positive picture than the one shown by the European one. And you have to understand that all these reports don't always use the full set of indicators. So you will get some change and some variation between reports, because it's not exactly the same indicators that we use. But you can see here in the global report, we have a couple of greens, more yellow and a bit less red. So in terms of the data also maybe being a bit more recent, this is also, I would try and take this as positive news, with some positive, the arrows like going up, which means that there are some improvements in many of the SDGs. And then there's a voluntary national review, which I'm going to finish with. This was produced this year. It's really an intention by the government to get back on track with the SDGs, to report on them. It was the second ever voluntary national review. The first one was in 2017. It does again show some kind of improvement, but it does admit that we need to actually make some improvements. And to be honest, it's kind of not agreeing entirely with the European and the global reports. The voluntary national review is a little bit more positive, maybe for obvious reasons, than the European and global reports, but generally, again, it says, okay, for SDG 1 and 3, we're doing okay, but we are falling behind on, especially on the environmental SDGs, and there's something we need to work on. So everybody agrees on that, at least. So you can find it online, and you can see what initiatives are being taken now to improve the situation. So I'm going to stop there. This is kind of a nice overview, I think, of the SDG situation, and I think it explains, it's proof of why we needed an SDSN network for Cyprus. I'll hand back to Dr. Markouli at this stage.
Thank you very much, Nicola. I think that was very useful to all members and partners, but it indicates as well the effort and the work that we all need to exert in order to help our country to reach higher levels and, of course, implement the SDGs. I personally don't like the situation as it is, and we really need to find ways to put our forces together, and this is the purpose of this meeting. So now comes the part of the workshop where I will give the floor to partners and members for a 5-minute presentation. And in this presentation, I would like to ask members and partners to tell us how their organization can contribute to the implementation of the SDGs, what kind of events, any possible events related to the SDGs are in the pipeline, and how we can work as SDSN Cyprus community together to promote the SDGs. First, I will give the floor to Professor Stephanie Lole-Shailu. She will give us a presentation on UCLAN first, and then I will ask her, if possible, to give us also a presentation on iClaim. UCLAN Cyprus is a member of SDSN Cyprus. iClaim is a partner. So I understand, Stephanie, that you are going to give a presentation for both, and I will give you the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erato. Can you hear me? I suspect.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to be with you. I didn't come alone, so you'll be very happy that I brought with me another 2 colleagues who will help me with the presentation. Dr. Josefina Antoniu is here, and Dr. Caterina Antoniu, who is here as well. Both of them are involved, both, of course, with UCLan Cyprus and with iClaim. So we are a team of 3. Nicolas, I noticed that iClaim was not on your list of partners. So if you don't mind updating.
That also it has to be updated, Nicola.
Yeah, on the website it's there. It's just not on the presentation, which has stole a few slides from an older presentation.
No problem. No problem at all. So thank you very much. We will try to be very brief, but we have obviously 2 organizations to present. So first of all, we want to present to you the University of Central Lancashire in Cyprus, or UCLan Cyprus as you know it as well, which is an SDSN member. So some facts about the university, but before I go to the facts, I just wanted to place 2 pictures, which for me are very emblematic of or symbolic of what we try to do. The top one is an exhibition which we did that was actually open to schools and other public institutions and education institutions around the story of Anna Frank, together with the Dutch embassy. And we were very proud of this exhibition. So that gives you the kind of objectives we have way beyond education in the classroom. The other one, actually, Rato, you are on the picture if you check carefully. This is a very proud moment of the university where the president of the Court of Justice of the European Union came to visit us in Pila. So we had a tour of Pila, first of all, so that he could see for himself what it means to be located in a mixed village in the Republic of Cyprus. And then we had a very interesting roundtable together with the students on the protection of personal data, attended by judges, former ministers, honorary fellows of the School of Law, academics, and students. And we are proud that we can do such things and we can attract attention from as far as Luxembourg and from top EU institutions. So we are a place of public outreach, and this is what I wanted to come to. And as a place of public outreach, we are happy to engage with the SDGs, and we actually think it is our duty to engage with the SDGs. So we actually have created a working group between Caterina, Josefina, and myself. We are hoping we can spread the word. So we have already done some mapping exercises within the institution and embraced colleagues. It's easier to embrace academics than it is to embrace other professional staff. So we are hoping we can find a way to, engage everyone. But basically, we are ideally placed for this because we are a particular institution on the island that awards double degrees. So we award UCLan Cyprus degree, but also UCLan UK degree. So we are at the same time a branch campus of the UCLan, but we are at the same time a fully licensed Cypriot university. So that always gives us a double perspective, which is very helpful when you deal with the SDGs. Of course, like any other university on the island, we have extremely well-trained and educated staff and academics. We are very research active, and we work a lot around impact. We are lucky to be involved and included in all the research and impact exercise frameworks of UCLan in the UK. So we benefit from support and from mentoring and progression. So we are able to understand better. And actually, Nicolas, you'll be very happy to perhaps to know, and Dorothea who is here, that we are also discussing with our colleagues in the UK, at UCLan in the UK, their involvement in the SDGs. So this is very important, and this is a good practice that led from Cyprus onto the main campus. We are doing well in terms of, student satisfaction, student awareness. We are very engaging, so we expect our students to engage also with the extra and co-curricular activities. And of course, the SDGs are this as well. So they are also, the students are a target group of the SDGs. And we benefit from some strategic alliances that will help us in this. So some of them are set out on this slide, such as the European Citizens Association or the Chartered Institute for Securities and Investments in the UK. We have partnerships with many chartered institutes in the UK. But we're also, beneficiary of certain awards, particularly the Equality Employer Award and the Queen's Young Leaders Award, which is clearly around innovation and SDGs. I will stop here and I will ask my colleague Josefina to step in to discuss the innovation and research innovation in university. The picture you have there is again another public outreach activity. It's a photo exhibition of the work of the International Criminal Court in The Hague with the Dutch Embassy once more. So we're very happy to be able to engage with this. Josefina?
Okay, hi everybody, I'm Josefina. I believe that research and innovation are, integrated part of working towards the SDGs, and in Cyprus, I think we are doing good with that area, as we have seen from Nicola's presentation previously. But we are working in a lot of different aspects, so we do have a lot of different research groups that apply to different SDGs. For example, we work with smart cities projects, for example, or agriculture projects and so on. In terms of technology or social impact, we're just putting some of the projects here as indicative that we felt are more aligned with the SDGs and with the goals towards the SDGs. Before I sort of go through them, I just wanted to say that we have recently, with Stephanie, joined the Centre of Sustainable Transitions with the UK, the UK campus, which aim mostly towards the intersection of let's say technology or engineering aspects and the SDGs. So they are more focused on aspects of the SDGs, and we are very happy to collaborate with them on small initiatives that are by continental or in both countries, let's say. All right, so the Center of Sustainable Transitions is our first main initiative that we are working towards. Right now we are focusing on a study for the impacts of COVID across the two countries, excuse me, the UK and Cyprus. And we are looking at well-being and human rights and these types of aspects and their impacts. We also work with a lot with technologies. The Sherpa projects looks into how new technologies like artificial intelligence and big data analytics can support the SDGs. So how can we guide people who develop technology and who use technology in order to support a positive outcomes towards the goals that are set by the SDGs. And the project has actually had very dedicated showcases regarding this. We call it techno-fixing the SDGs, so using technology to just move towards that. Responsible industry is the very similar concept, but with existing technology that is used in industry. So how, again, we can move towards specific SDGs that are selected for specific aspect, especially in this project, is especially for the health industry. So a lot of work has been done on that. Then we have additional smaller projects exploring the sociological challenges faced by foreign domestic workers in Cyprus. And I think Nicola has mentioned that we do need to pay attention to that aspect because Cyprus is not scoring well. To Be Connected is a project that works to employ the young people in Cyprus that are affiliated with universities by engaging industry. So this is also working towards employment. This is an initiative across universities. This is not just UCLan Cyprus. Social mediation, I think Katerina will talk a lot about that, so I will skip that part. Human rights education in context. I actually am not involved. Maybe Stephanie, you have a couple of words on this project. I was not involved in this.
Yes, so human rights education and smuggling, human trafficking in Cyprus are our some of the initiatives we take to try to build capacity on the ground around key societal issues together with funders and stakeholders.
And the next one is a new initiative as well from iClaim. Perhaps you will talk about it later or now. I don't.
A caution about the time.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
I think that we have another 3 minutes maybe for iClaim.
Yes, I will then wrap it up, and maybe during iClaim we can talk a little bit about that. Just the last sentence from me is that in addition to the groups at the university, we do have 2 research centers that are affiliated with the university, and iClaim is one of them, but also we have CEDAR and Inspire, which focus on other aspects, on other sciences or areas. So I will leave now Stephanie and Katerina to introduce iClaim.
Thank you, Josefina. So a few words about iClaim, and then Katerina will tell you a bit more. So iClaim is a non-profit organization that was established in Cyprus a few years ago. It is affiliated or associated, if you want, to UCLan Cyprus, but it's a completely independent legal entity. We were very proud and lucky this year to win the European Citizen Prize of the European Parliament for iClaim for its social mediation project. So before we turn to the social mediation project, basically what do we do in one word with iClaim? We work on empowering groups and communities to gain or regain their rights through social justice. This is what we do, and basically our objectives are articulated around widening access to social justice and inclusion in the light of the SDGs, and projects are socially oriented. They usually are around human rights, education, consumers, COVID impact, or even serious issues such as human trafficking across the Green Line. Katerina will now engage with one of the projects, which is the project that won the European Citizen Prize for the European Parliament, which is built around 5 SDGs, as you can see them here. Thank you, Katerina.
Hello, everyone. So very briefly, I will talk about social mediation, and then we can conclude the presentation. Social mediation is a project that encompasses all these values and aims that Stephanie already mentioned. And what it particularly deals with is adjusting the practice of mediation from its political and legal frameworks to a more social, non-formal framework that can make it more inclusive and more widely available, to also include the types of conflict that are smaller scale, community conflicts, either interpersonal or intergroup, but it can also be a complementary tool to larger scale conflicts. So social mediation can be a complementary tool to both legal and political mediation as well. And you can see on the slide shared here just a few of the trainings that we have done. We have collaborated with other organizations, with funding agencies such as the British High Commission, and since 2018 we have been implementing a number of trainings that have allowed us to train social mediators from different backgrounds and professional expertise. And we have also launched the Social Mediators Network so that there can be sustainability in this action. And obviously, one thing to mention is that we operate across the Green Line and internationally to a great extent, but with a focus on Cyprus and with most of the network members being Cyprus-based. But one thing that I wanted to mention is that a key area that we are concerned with is SDG 16. As Nicolas said, it's important to look at the indicators behind each category and behind each SDG, and I think this is what we are hoping to do here for social mediation and for all the other initiatives of both iClaim and UCLAN Cyprus, to essentially be able to identify those areas that need the most work and contribute towards those in a more coordinated manner. So thank you all for being here. It's great to see all the other members. Thank you, Nicolas and Erato.
Thank you very much, Katerina. The caution about the time, because I would like after the presentation to have also some time to brainstorm, to discuss, because this, I think, is a very important part of this workshop. So I would urge those who will speak now to be very cautious about the time, the 5-minute restriction. So I will now give the floor to Elisa Bosio from the University of Nicosia to make a presentation.
Thank
Elisa?
you. Yes, thank you, Erato. Let me share the screen. Can you see the slides? Hello?
Yes, we can see the slide. Yes.
Okay. Yes, I'll keep it as brief as possible, actually, bearing in mind the time limitation. So I'm Elisa Bosio. I'm the head of rankings administration at the University of Nicosia. And I just wanted to present some of the things that the university is doing towards the SDGs. We are one of the inaugural participants in the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings, which is focused on the UN SDGs and is built around that. So once a year, universities are given the opportunity to report on the work that they are doing across the SDGs, and to a minimum of 4 of them. So the university had applied to 5 SDGs in the last edition of the application, which were quality education, SDG 4, SDG 10, reduced inequalities, SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities, SDG 16, peace and justice, and the mandatory SDG 17, which is partnerships for the goals. Within the university, we have a sustainability strategy that is focused on 5 pillars, those being access to education, environmental sustainability, investing in people and the community, advancements in research and technology, and social sustainability, and contributing to informed public debate. So the different things that the university does or puts forward towards the SDGs, for example, what touches upon SDG 4 and 10 is the offering of more than 30 innovative distance learning programs that are offered at the bachelor's and master's level. Therefore giving access to education to those that may not be able to be in Cyprus and can follow along remotely for programs of study. And this was something that proved to be very beneficial to us as well, especially with the pandemic last year, because we already had the infrastructure in place, and in a matter of days we were able to make the switch fully online. Another thing that the university has established in the last couple of years, which contributes to SDG 3, good health and well-being, is the establishment of the University of Nicosia Medical Center in the neighborhood and community, which is operating under the general healthcare system and provides health services to students and the local community. Our students were also involved, our medical school students were also involved and supported the rollout of the vaccinations within the center through the doctors there. The university as well is now made up of 20 purpose-built customized buildings. We employ upwards of 1,000 people, thus contributing to decent work and economic growth within the country, as well as sustainable cities and communities, in the sense that any renovations that we do or any new buildings that we do are in line with sustainable standards. So renovations take place with that in mind, as well as new builds. We also have implemented an energy conservation program, a recycling program, a water conservation program, and launched various transportation initiatives, which in turn contribute towards various SDGs such as 6, 7, 11, and 12. And we also have one of the important programs that we have funded through the government is the My Hub project that has to do with migrant information centers. So it's been probably 3 to 4 years now that the university is involved in this program and leads this program, whereby migrant information centers have been set up in the various cities to be able to offer information and advice and guidance to migrants in Cyprus, thus contributing to SDGs 8, 10, and 16. So these are just very briefly some of the things that the university does, among other things that contribute to the various SDGs. And a couple more examples as well. We have a mobile medical clinic that the medical school students have used to be able to drive across the country to the more remote villages to be able to offer basic health checks and services to people such as the elderly or those that are not able to reach health centers. The university was also involved in a program that had to do with administering pap tests to migrant workers, female migrant workers across the island. And we also have a program called the Youth Mentor Program, whereby underprivileged students are connected with older buddies that are guided by psychologists to be able to spend time with them and do activities with them, help them with their homework, and so on and so forth. So yeah, these are just some examples of the work that the University of Nicosia is doing towards the SDGs.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elisa. And thank you for being within 5 minute limitation. Now I will give the floor to Orestis Pavlou from the European University to give us his presentation. Orestis?
Hello, everyone. Let me just share my screen. So can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can see the presentation.
Thank you very much. Pleased to meet you, first of all. I'm Orestis Pavlou. I'm a member of the research office, a research officer in the research office of the European University Cyprus, under the office of the Vice Rector on External Affairs. And we have very recently joined the SDSN Cyprus network. I think it was late summer, this summer. So my presentation will be very concise. It will be focused around mostly on research because of the nature of my position. I've compiled a list here of many of the research projects that the university is currently a part of, either coordinating or as a partner. And we currently have 91 running research projects. with a total budget allocated to us of around 8.5 million euros. We have 10 main research centers in the university, which are specialized mostly on things related to certain SDGs. And as you can see from the number of projects, I've put here the number of projects being currently worked on by the university next to each SDG. And we have a very strong, let's say, not participation, but yeah, participation in research projects related to SDG 3, which is health related, SDG 8, which is related to economic growth, quality education, SDG 4, industry innovation, SDG 16, which is peace, justice, and strong institutions. And I think gender equality and reduced inequalities, we also have some stronger representation there. And here are some examples of research projects currently being run by our university. We have a participation in national funded projects, Horizon 2020, Erasmus projects, and other funding programs. But we aim to, you know, the goal for the future for EUC is to see how we can actively participate in SDGs and proceed with the implementation of the results of these research projects into sustainability development, and also try to improve on our partnerships with other universities here in Cyprus and in Europe as well, and internationally, in order to more actively participate in the goals, in the all SDGs. We are also a member of, I think, as many higher education institutions in Cyprus. We are also a member in the newly created team supporting the Deputy Ministry of Research and Innovation here in Cyprus on open science. And we were in a meeting recently where it was emphasized that we need to build common repository of data here in Cyprus. We already have infrastructures similar to this, but we need to make it in line with European Open Science Cloud. And that this, I only mentioned this because one of the main points that Nicolas mentioned was that there's a very big lack of data being reported from Cyprus. So maybe this is something, a national effort that can assist in this aspect. Thank you very much. That's my presentation.
Thank you very much, Oresti, for this presentation. I will give now the floor to Andonis Zorbas, Open University of Cyprus, for his presentation. Open University is a member of SDSN Cyprus. Andonis, are you with us?
Actually, I don't see him.
Okay, then I will give the floor to Stelios Yatros from TEPAC, also our member.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Yeah, I'll also keep it short. Can you see? Oh, you're looking at the wrong screen. Okay, we have the other one then. Stop sharing. Okay. Yep. So hello from me as well. My name is Stelios Yatros, and I'm an associate professor at the Cyprus University of Technology. I work in the Civil Engineering and Geomatics department. And I'm also supporting the team around the Sustainable Development Goals for the university and its impact in the society, as well as its students. Just a few things about the university. I suppose you all know these things by now. We're the second largest public university in Cyprus, based in Limassol, focusing on applied research. We hold, among other things, investor and people accreditation. And what we're getting particularly proud of is being one of the founding members of the European University of Technology, which is one of the new European university alliances with 100,000 students across eight campuses, which has its, I suppose, within its initiation, the motto of putting human first. And it's about how to use technology, education, research and innovation to create a better society across Europe and across the world. So what we look for and what we're trying is to harmonize our courses, our research, innovation, and other activities across all 8 campuses, from Cyprus to Ireland, from Latvia to Spain, and encompass these effectively principles. We are also the coordinator of the EIT Climate Kick Risk Hub in Cyprus. EIT is the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. It was created by the Barroso administration a few years back under the auspices of Ms. Androula Vasiliou, who was the Education Commissioner then. And its aim was to bring value in all the educational research that was done in Europe, working around the knowledge triangle of research and education, entrepreneurship, and innovation. So what we're doing is we're working with partners across the community. That's what KIC stands for, Climate Innovation Community, to offer educational project offerings, I suppose, from schools 12 to 18 to postgrads, local authorities, and other individuals or startups. Progress research and innovation, not just on climate research, but also on the mitigation of the consequences of climate change, as well as other issues pertinent to the sustainability goals. And that also includes workshops on policy. We've recently worked on supporting or helping the government with the agenda for the innovation agenda for climate change. And we've also been supporting startups from Cyprus and abroad that are working on sustainable development and social innovation issues. New bolt-on on that actually connects the 2 slides that I've shown you previously. We're working on a new EIT HEI initiative project with our EUT partners. This is a bolt-on project to the European University of Technology Alliance, and its aim is to boost clean tech innovation and entrepreneurship in all EUT campuses through training and capacity building. And this is something that we're trying, together with our partners from Latvia, to include in the offerings of the rest of our partners and create a more of an entrepreneurial mindset, not just across students, but also across staff. And when we're talking about the entrepreneurial mindset, it's not just that we expect that everybody will leave from the room and go on an entrepreneurial hunt, but also start thinking within the organizations as a change management routine, how to change policies and work really to make our work more efficient. As I will mention in the end, I'm also supporting the work on serving and seeing the state of the SDGs at the CUT. We've created a dedicated website, and actually we've went down to the let's say very deep into the university. It's a hybrid team of students, academic and non-academic staff, and we were able to identify and map a lot of the things that the university does. I think the problem that we have with reporting, obviously, I'm not going to say that we're doing so many things and they are not being reported. But on one hand, we're very few, and I find out that when we're doing fewer things, we report a lot more and we communicate and we disseminate a lot more. If we're few people and we're doing many things, and a lot of the things are actually ad hoc, then these are being underreported. And through this process of mapping what everybody in the university does, we have been able to match this with the strategic agenda of the university and send a set of recommendations to the Rectors Council for some immediate actions, some midterm actions, and some long-term actions. And a few of the longer-term actions are obviously tied with the strategic agenda. The shorter term were about reporting and finding how to best collect data, because the university, and especially the administrative departments, they had lots of different databases that were not connected. So by adding particular questions in the surveys of collecting of data being collected, we're able to match our research projects with different goals. We're able to identify problems in the offerings that we're giving students that deal with poverty and hunger. And we've been doing it for the past 2 years, and we are seeing stark change in what our reporting in terms of impact tracking, let's say, has to do. But this does not necessarily mean that we've changed policies, is that we're identifying what's really happening. And I think, and I'll finish with this comment, is it's probably a big problem of things being underreported because we are just too few, and when these surveys come, someone has to answer, and they just answer to the best of their knowledge without really putting emphasis, because there is no time. So maybe that's a thing that we could think about as a network of how to support different entities, especially the government, but as well as private organizations to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stelios. Thank you for this presentation. Now we will have Nicolas Jarot, but in his capacity as representing the Cyprus Institute, and we will see a presentation about the Cyprus Institute.
Hi, so yes, I'm going to wear a different hat now. I'm going to wear my Cyprus Institute hat. Let me see if I can share my screen. Right. Okay. And right, can you see my screen? Yes, I think.
Yes, yes.
So when examining the role of the Cyprus Institute in all this, it's important to distinguish between the Cyprus Institute and the Cyprus Research and Education Foundation, CREF, which is the umbrella under which we operate. So I'm going to explain a little bit. So the Cyprus Institute is a research, education, higher education, and innovation institution, which essentially contributes not only to the knowledge economy of Cyprus, but we see ourselves as a bridge between the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East region and the European research area. Leveraging the strategic position of Cyprus as the only EU country in the Middle East, in a way. So we are non-governmental and non-profit, but we have a very close relationship with the government, who provide more than half of our funding every year, and also some facilities and space that we can use for laboratories and other things like that. We operate under the umbrella of the Cyprus Research and Educational Foundation. So we were the first institution that was created by CREF, but it's important to distinguish between the two when it comes to the issue of who is hosting SDSN. So in 2013, the Cyprus Institute as an organization became a member of SDSN, and in fact, for many years, there were only 3 members in Cyprus. It was Neapolis, Cyprus Institute, and DEPAC. In 2018, we had a very large regional climate change conference, and Jeffrey Sachs attended the conference. and he called for two things to happen. One was to create a regional climate change initiative for the Eastern Mediterranean, which happened, and in fact this conference within which this workshop exists is a result of that. And he also suggested that we should create a branch of SDSN in Cyprus, which again we did. So we submitted the concept note in 2019, and it was approved by SDSN headquarters. So officially, SDSN Cyprus then started to exist. CREF is the actual host, but CREF doesn't have a physical offices. So the physical space hosting the office, let's say, of SDSN is the Cyprus Institute, in addition, of course, to Kostas Kounamas, who is based at Frederick University. Frederick joined, I think, in 2019. He was one of the first to join when we created as we were creating the network. And then, in 21, we started having our online presence. We now have the SDSN website and social media, which is again hosted by the Cyprus Institute. Now, in terms of our relationship with the SDGs, aside from our membership and the physical space that we provide for SDSN, there are two approaches here. On the left side of the screen, you will see our research into areas which are relevant to the SDGs, which also reflected in blue on the diagram. And on the right side, you will see how we mainstream SDGs into our daily operations, which you can see in orange on the right side of the screen. So in terms of research, we have a whole research center dedicated to climate and atmosphere research, which clearly contributes to SDG 13. We have a research unit dedicated to the built environment, and in particular energy sustainability in the built environment. And in fact, we are actually in the process of building our own green campus, and this contributes to sustainable cities and communities. We have a research unit looking into the production of solar energy, concentrated solar power, which links into SDG 7. We have a unit which looks at the impact of climate change on the spread of vector-borne diseases, but also which was repurposed during the COVID crisis to model the spread of COVID in aerosol particles, for example, which contributes to SDG 3. We have, for the last 2 years, an innovation and entrepreneurship division, which essentially tries to take our scientific research and put it in the market in the form of spin-outs, spin-ins, spin-offs, and generally the leveraging of intellectual property, which contributes to SDG 9. In terms of economic growth, we have a techno-economic unit which looks into the green economy, the circular economy, especially as it comes to energy issues. We contributed, for example, to the COVID recovery and resilience plan. And then we have a research group dealing with water issues, clean water and sanitation, that's SDG 6. So that's on the research side. In terms of mainstreaming into our operations, innovation is actually somewhere in between. For example, in terms of responsible consumption and production, we are in the process of creating a zero waste, net zero energy campus, a green campus, which contributes to SDG 12. We also have a history of using science and technology as a peace building tool in the region. For example, we work a lot with Israeli and Palestinian scientists, and this science diplomacy fits nicely within SDG 16. In terms of gender equality, we have an internal Equal Opportunities Committee, which is leading the way in the implementation of SDG 5 at the Cyprus Institute, which regularly gives training to staff and also is preparing all sorts of guides and manuals, and a gender strategy, which will be publicly available soon. In terms of education, this is focused around our graduate school. We deliver at the PhD and the master's level, and most of the courses we deliver are related to the sustainable development issues that are covered by the SDGs. And in terms of partnership for the goals, we have an extensive network of more than 2,000 partners in 70 different countries. And I would say that more than 70% of the projects we work on are contributing to the implementation of Agenda 2030. So that's an overview of both the research and the mainstreaming side. And I will leave it at that in terms of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nikolai. Now I give the floor to Kostas Kournamas, who is also a co-manager for SDSN Cyprus, but he will make a presentation now in his capacity representing Frederick University. Kostas.
Hello to everybody. Let me just share my screen now, and let me just see, share. Okay, can you see this, the first slide? Yes, excellent. Okay, it will be a short presentation. Basically, as already mentioned, our university joined the SDSN in 2019, becoming a member also of SDSN Cyprus the same year. As far as our plans, etc., have evolved during the past couple of years, the Sustainable Development Goals are incorporated in our university's strategic plan and directly match and also overlap with the core values and goals of our university. Therefore, it was, let's say, an easy transition to this. The plan basically works in 4 axes. That is the research, teaching and learning, governance, operations, and leadership. Through that, we proceeded into mapping our teams and activities undertaken in the university. So as far as the first component, research, is concerned, there are a total of 42 teams working with SDGs, where in the past 5 years, the main projects that have been implemented were in the fields of SDGs 4, 7, 14, and 15. As far as teaching and learning is concerned, these are SDGs are incorporated in almost all courses, while some entirely tackle SDGs, including a couple of new masters that have been prepared in the past few years, in the past year, like 1 or 2 years, let's say. Governance operations also has changed in order to incorporate SDGs more efficiently in our policies, while the leadership axis includes the collaboration with stakeholders and the local community. As last concluding slide is that we have taken the opportunity to also participate in the Times Higher Education Impact Ranking in 2020. That's preparing also the related sustainability report, and leading us to have an overall goal or aim in the university to have the SDGs becoming part of the day-to-day activities of the university. And with that, I would like to conclude this presentation. Thank you very much. And
thank you very much, Kostas, for this presentation. And I think our last speaker is Antonis Zorbas from Open University of Cyprus. I think he had joined us.
Yes, thank you very much, Mrs. Thank you, everybody, and a huge apologize for not participating from the beginning. I was trying to connect from my phone, but I couldn't do that. I don't know why, so 1,000 apologies to everybody. Well, I'm Antonis Zorbas. I'm associate professor at an Open University in Cyprus, mostly my background is still with chemical and environmental engineering, and I will not share any different that Konstantinos Kounamas mentioned, how we tackle the SDGs. We, as university, try to do it through the research, teaching, governance, and leadership at all levels in the university. And of course, we aim in day-to-day activities of how we introduce our SDGs in the university. However, and more than that, through the research that we develop, and actually the last 3 days we submit 2 huge Horizon and 1 AXA research proposal, which the deadline was yesterday, today, and 1 is going to be tomorrow morning. In all the research activities, we tackle SDGs. Otherwise, we will not be able to go forward. And through the 2 master programs that we run, one is dealing with environmental conservation and management. In many thematic approach and in many subjects, we introduce to our students, of course, SDGs. Mostly due to my background, I'm dealing with SDG 3, 6, 11, and 12 mostly. Climate actions and resource efficiency and so on, and to the new program that we will run maybe from the next year, and we emphasize in the sustainable environmental engineering. In many of our thematic areas, we introduce many of the SDG goals. So I think my 2 minutes, as everybody talk, has passed, and sorry for being so fast. And now open to answer to any question to you in today.
Thank you very much, Andonis. Is there anyone else who would like to make a presentation from those participating in the workshop? I think that those who were listed to speak, we have exhausted the list. So we come to the part of discussion now. And personally, I am very content, I'm very satisfied with these presentations. But I think what is now needed is to see how all this wealth of projects and research and other activities can be put together in a coordinated way in order to help the overall objective, which is the implementation of SDGs in Cyprus. I think this is what we have been lacking so far, and I invite you to make any suggestions based on what you have heard from your colleagues in the other members and the other partners. What I see, for example, is one way is if there is an event organized by one of our members or one of our partners, these should, I would say, always be in conjunction or with the cooperation of SDSN Cyprus, so that we give an overall projection to SDSN Cyprus to people, because most of the people, I think, they don't know what SDSN Cyprus stands for. Unfortunately, we are a very young SDSN, and I think through your activities as well, we can project the work of SDSN Cyprus. So this is one suggestion I am putting for discussion, but I invite you also, and if Dorothea is with us as well, having heard our partners and members presentations, if she has any suggestions of her own. Who would like to speak? Any suggestions on how to move forward, Nicola?
Yeah, it's more of a question to whoever is here today, whether it might be useful. At some point, we considered the idea of having a kind of a newsletter, like a one-pager that we send to all our members and all our partners once a month, once every 2 months, I don't know. Which then, if you have an event that's related to the SDGs, we would gather those, put them in, and so we would email. It would be purely electronic, of course, but we would email this to our community, to see who wants to help, who wants to get involved, or who simply wants to attend. Would this be something, would you consider useful, or?
Anyone? I personally support this idea. I think it would be very useful, because for the first time I heard a lot of very interesting and very important things through your presentations that I didn't know. So I think if there is a project or an event or an award or all these that I think should be disseminated to a wider public, I think a newsletter would be very helpful. This is my opinion.
Can I say something, Erato?
Yes,
Can you hear? Yes. Okay, Nicolas, I was thinking, since the European Office Cyprus is a partner, am I right? Okay, would it be possible to try to avoid duplicating work and get advantage of their newsletter? They have an excellent distribution network. Since they are partners of the SDSN Cyprus, perhaps try to discuss with them to what extent we could have an SDG related column or rubric, if you want, in their newsletter. Maybe that would be more efficient than yet write a new newsletter. Yeah.
I think that would be a good idea, actually, because everybody gets the newsletter of EOC on it's the highlight of our Friday. So you know, it's widely distributed, and having an SDG column there of little SDG related events, etc., would probably be more effective than creating our own newsletter, and definitely less work for us as well.
Exactly. I mean, you have seen who we are here. I have noticed a combination of academics together with some people dedicated either to research or even impact, we have seen. So we are a good bunch of people, but no one is dedicated, obviously, fully to the SDGs, as we can see. So if we can just maximize efforts, it would be good.
I can talk to them because not only are they a member of SDSN, but we at the Cyprus Institute are a member of the European Office of Cyprus. So we can talk to them and
I think probably all universities are members of the EOC, so that simplifies things. And yeah, so we can definitely, you know, try to meet each other somewhere at an optimal point, and perhaps even, join the SDN Cyprus could join the EOC, or we could enter into some sort of MOU.
Yeah, I think it's a very good suggestion. My only concern is that if this is acceptable to the European office, we should make sure that this newsletter goes out to all members and all partners of SDSN Cyprus who are not probably included in the list of that the European office has right now. So we should explore this, and of course, if this is not the case, then we should look into having our own newsletter.
I mean, definitely, we can ask our partners who doesn't receive the EOC newsletter to make sure that we forward it to that subgroup of partners.
I don't receive it, for example, and I don't know if anyone else from partners or from members. Probably members, they receive it because they are mostly educational institutions, but I don't know about our partners. Maybe not all our partners are receiving it. So we have to make sure that, yes, Dorothea.
Yeah, maybe I can say a word on that as well. So I think in terms of resource efficiency, yes, point absolutely taken. But then on the other hand, also kind of the ownership of our contacts is something that is not to be underestimated. So if there was like a central list of SDSN Cyprus partners, members, potential donors, and so forth that lives within the SDSN Cyprus Secretariat, I think that will be actually more useful, because then we can use that data and those partners as well for other types of outreach, not just the newsletter. One point to consider is also who we actually want to reach with those initiatives, because if it were only to be within SDSN member institutions, then we could make use of our SDSN member community that I was mentioning earlier on. So if it's really just about updating other SDSN members about your projects, asking questions and so forth, then I would encourage us all to make use of that platform or that community, where we could also create a specific space for Cyprus members only if you chose to do that. For the time being, you would be all part of the European region within that community. So everything that you post would go out to all our all our members in Europe. But we could also create a space for you that is only open to members of SDSN Cyprus. So that would be only inward communication. If it comes to outward communication, of course, a newsletter is more useful because our community is only open to SDSN members.
I see the point. I think it's very valid what Dorothea has said. Any other suggestions, Stephanie?
Yes. I have a follow-up, and that was my second suggestion, listening to you and Nicolas, but then Dorothea has partly addressed it. Nicolas, I was trying to find the website that was newly launched. Maybe you can put the link in the chat so that we all know what we are talking about. And I was going to ask whether, there is any function on the website to subscribe to something. So probably it would be a simple start to get people to subscribe to anything we do through the website. And that, of course, could include then a newsletter or invitations to any events we do and so on, which is then much easier to fit into what Dorothea was saying. I have to say that I find the weekly newsletter of the SDSN a better highlight of my week than the EOC newsletter. So I find the newsletter and everything we have access to through Mobilize extremely helpful. So this is something we ought to utilize and deploy in Cyprus, so within our own institutions and also outside of the institutions, to create more membership and more stakeholding. So I do agree that we need to work on this, and what good way seems to me to start collecting interest through a subscribe button here in Cyprus and see then how we can exploit it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think both of those things are pretty easy from a technical point of view. So we could have a subscribe button that then puts people on a mailing list, whether it's for events or for a newsletter. And the website, I just shared it on the chat. It is quite basic. I mean, that's the thing about SDSN. We're a network of volunteers, so we do this in our extra time. I'm actually the content manager of the website right now, amongst other things. But what you mentioned can easily be done. I don't think it's difficult.
Thank you.
And of course, we have the Facebook and the Twitter, I think, Nicola. So we have the social media.
Facebook and the Twitter as well. I can share those here as well if you want, and at least the SDSN Cyprus page. I'm just going to share it now, which again gives updates when something is happening. There we go. So yeah, so that's definitely can be done. I just want to say that because I'm going to have to leave in 7 minutes, I'm facilitating a whole series of workshops this week as part of the climate change conference. But if you have any suggestions that are not covered in this workshop, please feel free to email SDSN Cyprus at any point, and we will take them into account and try and improve things.
Thank you.
Anyone else has any suggestions or comments or ideas about how to coordinate really?
I have one more, which is has to do with the visibility. I mean, the presentations today were very helpful, particularly, you know, to learn and to know each other, but also to see what sort of indicators we are using. So there is capacity building needs for members of the SDSN, how to, you know, embrace and adopt those indicators and try to be more consistent in the way we project the SDGs and the SDSN, but also I think we could organize a public event online whereby we could sort of disseminate exactly what we do through the SDSN regarding the SDGs to reach out to the society, the wider society, irrespective of what the government is currently doing, which is still quite targeted. I mean, we could use students in universities to disseminate.
I think it's personally, I think it's a very good idea. What I have heard today, as I said, is very interesting, and this is information that I didn't have in mind. So I think it should not remain within the content of this workshop. I think it would be a good idea after, of course, the climate conference, and could be done also on a web form to have such a wider event where each member and each partner, and I hope that all partners and members would be able to participate, can make presentations, and all these, of course, will illustrate the work that is being done and educate, of course. So this is our another aim, is to educate people of what we are doing and what we are aiming at. So that's a very good idea. I was thinking also what we can do about educating young people on SDGs. I don't know if you have any ideas, but I think that the young people are much more sensitive today because of in their curriculum they have issues dealing with the SDGs. But as SDSN Cyprus, what we can do to sensitize more young people at all levels, not only at the elementary, high school, and then university levels, on the importance of SDGs. I think this is a key element, and this is something that will help us in our wider efforts to inform people about SDSN Cyprus and what we are really aiming at. Yes, Nicola.
Yeah, on that point, actually, we do have the option at some point of, it's in the cards, in the pipeline, let's say, of creating a youth branch of SDSN Cyprus. To do that, we need to be sure that you, when I say you, I mean you who represent universities in particular, would be able to help us in the sense that it would be nice to have a student representative on each campus of the member universities, which would then connect with the central youth coordinator. For that, we already have some terms of reference who can then coordinate with those people, but then they actually have someone to talk to within each university.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we have not progressed on this issue of the youth representatives. So we need the help also of the other members to do that.
Hello. I would also like to add something regarding mapping. Since SDSN, our role is also to promote research better research methodologies and information. It might be good to have our organizations sort out a little bit the projects or activities that fall into specific SDGs, so that and okay, Nicholas, you also tell me if this is a little bit possible to have a, let's say, a database on our website. For example, SDG 1, these 1, 2, 3, 4 universities have this kind of information, and therefore, because also I think it was Orestes, I think was the one that mentioned something that they have already some kind of initial information on SDGs database, if I recall correctly. So it might be good to unite all our activities and present them to the public as well, so that people know that we're dealing with them.
I think it's a very important suggestion, and this is an area that we are lacking as Cyprus, not as this SDSN Cyprus, but as Cyprus in general. So because I think there are members who must leave, I think we could conclude this workshop. Has been very, very useful. I wish to thank each and every one of you for participating and for making these very useful presentations. Particularly, I would like to thank Dorothea for being with us, for sharing with us the projects of SDSN Global, and of course her views, her assessment, how we can become better here in Cyprus. Thank you very much all, and until the next time we meet. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, and thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Goodbye.